Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into the life of a saint who was a true trailblazer, a spiritual giant with a gentle heart, and a master of communication long before the internet even existed. We are talking about Saint Francis de Sales, the patron saint of writers and journalists. His story is one of courage, innovation, and a profound love for God that changed the hearts of thousands. So, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore the incredible journey of this remarkable man. Imagine it's the year 1567. In the beautiful alpine region of Savoy, a part of the world nestled between France and Italy, a boy named Francis is born into a noble family. From the very beginning, he was bright, kind, and deeply devout. He was the eldest of 13 children, and his parents, particularly his father, had grand ambitions for him. The plan was clear. Francis would follow in his father's footsteps, becoming a distinguished lawyer and magistrate, securing the family's influence and prestige for another generation. To make this dream a reality, Francis was sent to the best schools. He began his studies at the Collège de Clermont in Paris, a prestigious Jesuit institution. Here, he excelled not only in his academic subjects like rhetoric and philosophy, but also in more courtly pursuits like fencing and riding. He was a well-rounded, charming young man. But while he was in Paris, something profound happened. He went through a period of intense spiritual struggle, a dark night of the soul. He became convinced, through a misunderstanding of a theological debate on predestination, that he was damned to hell. This torment lasted for weeks, causing him immense anxiety and physical distress. Finally, in desperation, he knelt before a statue of the Virgin Mary in the church of Saint-Étienne-des-Jurés and prayed the Memorare. In that moment of complete surrender, his anguish lifted, and he was filled with a sense of peace. He made a private vow of chastity and dedicated his life to God, whatever that might mean. After Paris, he went on to the University of Padua in Italy, one of Europe's premier universities, to study law. He was a brilliant student, earning his doctorate in both civil and canon law at the age of 24. His father was overjoyed. The stage was set for a glittering career. He had a seat on the Senate of Savoy waiting for him and even a wealthy heiress lined up for him to marry. But Francis had a different plan, one he had been nurturing in his heart since that dark time in Paris. When he returned home, he had to break the news to his father. He didn't want to be a lawyer or a nobleman with a grand estate. He wanted to be a priest. As you can imagine, his father was furious. He felt his years of investment and all his dreams for his son were being thrown away. For months, the tension in the family home was thick. Francis remained gentle but firm in his conviction. It took the intervention of a cousin, who was himself a priest, and a providential opening for Francis to be appointed as the provost of the Cathedral Chapter of Geneva, a high-ranking position, to finally convince his father. He saw that Francis could still have a distinguished career, just within the church. And so, in 1593, Francis was ordained a priest. Almost immediately, he volunteered for a mission that seemed not just difficult, but completely impossible. The region of Chablais, just south of Lake Geneva, had been under Calvinist rule for about 60 years. Nearly the entire population of 70,000 people had converted to Calvinism. The Catholic faith was all but extinguished there. The Duke of Savoy had recently regained military control of the area and wanted to bring it back into the Catholic fold, but no one wanted the job. It was dangerous. Priests who had tried to go there were run out of town or worse. But Francis, filled with apostolic zeal, volunteered to go. He and his cousin set out, not with an army, but with their faith and a profound sense of mission. The reception was just as hostile as they'd feared. Doors were slammed in their faces. People refused to speak to them. They were pelted with stones. At night, they had to sleep in a fortress for their own safety, crossing a frozen river each morning to get to the main town of Thonon. Preaching was pointless. The churches were empty, and no one would come to listen. Anyone who even showed an interest in speaking with them was ostracized by the community. It seemed like a total failure. But Francis was not only courageous, he was incredibly innovative. He thought, if people won't come to hear me preach, I will bring the sermon to them. He started writing short, clear, and compelling explanations of Catholic doctrine on small pieces of paper. He wrote about the Mass, the authority of the Church, and the saints, all in a style that was reasonable, loving, and easy to understand. He didn't use harsh or condemning language. Instead, he presented the faith with warmth and clarity. And then, in the dead of night, he would go through the towns and villages, slipping these leaflets under people's doors. Think about that for a moment. In an age without mass media, He created his own. He essentially invented the religious tract, the pamphlet, the Catholic newsletter. He was a one-man communications department. Slowly, painstakingly, his method began to work. People would read his notes in the privacy of their homes, away from the pressure of their neighbors. Their curiosity was piqued. The logic and love in his words began to break down the walls of prejudice. Hostility gradually softened into curiosity, and then into respect. Small groups started to gather to speak with him. He engaged in public debates with Calvinist ministers, not with aggression, but with sharp intellect and profound charity. His gentleness was his greatest weapon. By the time he left the Chablais 4 years later, it's estimated that tens of thousands of people had returned to the Catholic faith. The mission that everyone thought was impossible had succeeded, not through force, but through the power of love and the written word. His success did not go unnoticed. In 1602, Francis was appointed the Bishop of Geneva. Now, this was a challenging title because Geneva was the very heart of the Calvinist Reformation, the Protestant Rome. He couldn't actually live in his own cathedral city. Instead, he had to set up his headquarters in the nearby town of Annecy. From there, he governed his diocese with incredible energy and care. He was a true shepherd to his flock. He reorganized the diocese, established education for the clergy, and preached constantly. But what really set him apart was his work as a spiritual director. People from all walks of life, courtiers, soldiers, shopkeepers, mothers, lawyers, flocked to him for guidance. They communicated mostly through letters, and Francis wrote thousands upon thousands of them. His central message was revolutionary for the time. He taught that the call to holiness, the call to a deep and loving relationship with God, was not just for monks in monasteries or nuns in convents. It was for everyone, right where they were. He called it the devout life. He taught that you could become a saint by doing your ordinary, everyday tasks with extraordinary love. A mother changing a diaper, a soldier on the battlefield, a merchant in the marketplace, all could grow in holiness by offering their work and their lives to God. To make this teaching more widely available, he compiled his letters of spiritual direction to a noblewoman into a book. Published in 1609, it was called Introduction to the Devout Life. It was an instant bestseller and has remained a spiritual classic for over 400 years. It's practical, down-to-earth, and filled with gentle wisdom. It's not a book of abstract theology. It's a practical guide for how to love God in the midst of a busy, messy, real life. He uses simple analogies, like telling us to be like bees, gathering the honey of virtue from every flower we encounter in our day. Together with Saint Jane de Chantal, a widow he was directing, he founded a new religious order for women, the Order of the Visitation of Holy Mary. This, too, was innovative. He wanted it to be an order that women who were older, or not in perfect health, could join. Initially, he even envisioned them as an active order who would go out into the community to visit the sick and the poor, something unheard of for nuns at the time. While he eventually had to accept a more traditional cloistered model due to church regulations, the spirit of the order remained one of gentle love, humility, and service. Saint Francis Delaware Sales worked tirelessly until the very end. He died in Lyon on December 28, 1622, at the age of 55. His final word was Jesus. His impact was immense. He showed the world a different face of sanctity, one that was not severe and remote, but gentle, optimistic, and deeply human. He is famous for his saying, "You can catch more flies with a spoonful of honey than with a barrel of vinegar." He lived that philosophy. He believed that truth must always be communicated with love. Because of his incredible work using the written word to spread the faith, in 1923, Pope Pius XI named him the patron saint of writers, journalists, and the Catholic press. It's a perfect fit. He understood the power of communication to change hearts and minds, and he used it for the highest possible purpose, to draw people closer to God. His life is a powerful reminder for all of us, whether we are writers or not, that our words matter. It teaches us that true strength lies not in shouting louder than everyone else, but in gentleness, patience, and a love that seeks to understand rather than condemn. His story shows us that love is truly the most powerful tool for sharing the truth. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the life of Saint Francis Delaware Sales. I hope you found it as inspiring as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into history and faith. Let me know in the comments below which of his teachings resonates with you the most. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.